everybody, welcome back to another guide here. Today's will be on the newer, I'm probably pronouncing the name of this company wrong, but the CowanSim, however you pronounce it, COWANSIM. It's a 222B helicopter. I do not know a lot about this helicopter in general. I've really only learned about it since I've been using it here in Microsoft Flight for the last couple days. I've recently picked it up during the summer sale that's going on in Microsoft Flight right now this July, and it was like half off, something like that, and I can guarantee you it's well worth it. I would have even paid the full price for it. So this little guide here is just going to be on a couple things. First, it's going to be just how to start it up, the functionality of the helicopter, and how to set up your controls for it to make it fly a little easier. And the second part is going to be really just a basic tutorial for the Garmin 530, which is installed in this helicopter. Right below the Garmin 530 there is also a Garmin 430, and the function's pretty much exactly the same for the most part. The 530 is just a little bit bigger screen. We're not going to go extremely in depth on it, but I will show you basically a little beginner's guide into how to use it. So with that being said, let's hop in and let's start getting this set up. So one of the first things you're going to want to do, you don't have to technically do any of this, but I do highly recommend it, as it will make flying the helicopter much easier and maintaining proper altitude and heading and whatnot, so you don't have to keep constant pressure on whatever peripheral hardware, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is you're using, whether it be a joystick or a controller or whatever. Either way, it'll make it a whole lot easier to fly. So I have the X52, and you don't have to put the key assignment like I am. Of course, you can do it however you want. I'm just going to show you what they're called, what they do, and why you should have them assigned. So to just quickly get to it, and go to make sure you select on whatever it is you want to put it to. You can even do your keyboard if you wanted to, but you want to just type in trim to start with. Alright, so after you type in trim, come down here till you see all these. Now it looks like I've got a whole lot assigned right now, but actually we're only going to focus on a couple of them, or 4 of them. Some of these other ones are for regular aircraft. So the first thing you want to look at assigning is, I'm just going to do it easily here so you see one at a time. First thing you want to make sure you do is do your normal trim, which is the same for it's going to act the same just like as if you was flying a fixed wing aircraft, except you cannot use the regular trim. The elevator trim up does not work on helicopters, or at least this helicopter. So you will need to make sure you assign increase rotor longitudinal, golly, I can't talk right now, trim. So as you can see, I just assigned it to the same button, which is going to be perfectly fine, because this elevator trim up is just not going to work in a helicopter, so it's not going to cause any type of conflict. So really, if you just want to go in here, if you already have that assigned, any of the trims, you can just go in here to the input and just quickly pick it out that way and just easily assign it that way. So go ahead and make sure you do your increase rotor trim and do your decrease rotor trim. After those two, the next thing you want to do is the lateral trim. So I don't really use them in airplanes. You may, if you have the aileron trim, you can make those match. It's not going to conflict there either. And just for simplicity, actually just have it on a single button. So make sure you do the decreased rotor lateral trim, and then naturally you will want to do the increase. So the lateral trim is the bank or the left and right input that you would put on your controller or your HOTAS. So if you're pushing your stick to the left or to the right, that's your lateral. The longitudinal, that's your just up and down, nose up, nose down trim, like as if you would have it in an airplane. But the reason I'm focusing on making sure you have this is because, just like with any helicopter, it will always want to pull to one side per se because of in airplanes it's called the P factor, and that's really only when you're on the ground. If you ever take off in a prop plane, you'll notice you always have to put a little rudder on while you're taking off, and that's from what's called the P factor, and it's just from the prop wanting to push the aircraft a certain way. So it's basically the same reason, except it's in the air instead because of your tail rotor. So that'll make you more easily fly straight and level, and you can, if you get it trimmed out really good, you don't even actually have to touch your controls for a while, for the most part. It can be a little windy sometimes, of course that'll mess it up, but you just won't have to put as much pressure constantly on your joystick or whatever it is you're using. So that's really the only two things I highly recommend that you do set up before flying any helicopter. But especially this one, I noticed this one pulls a lot more than some of the other ones, but probably because this is one of the bigger helicopters that's ever been in the sim right now, at least that I've flown. The blades on this thing are massive. They're, I don't know, maybe around a foot wide, maybe 14 inches, I can't exactly tell, and I've never seen one of these helicopters in person up close, so I couldn't tell you there either. Alright, with that being set up, we're now going to go over how to start it. You don't have to do this if you don't, but I set up a quick camera selection for the the Control-Alt-9 camera, as long as you have not changed those mappings. Then if you just go to about this view right here and just hit Control-Alt-9 or whatever you want, whatever number you would want it to be assigned to, you can do that. It just makes getting up to this overhead panel a little easier from trying to do it from the pilot seat. So first thing you're going to want to do is turn on the battery, just like with any other aircraft. And you can go ahead and turn on the generators. It's kind of weird, for these you actually have to scroll up and it pushes them down. You can click and drag to, no you can't. Yeah, you might have the tendency to want to scroll down and you make it, and you're thinking you're actually turning it on, but you're actually not. You're turning it off. You're hitting the reset. So make sure you hit scroll up on that. And the inverters, they should already be on. Instruments, lights, that should already be on as well. Well, not this, but the inverters should be. So you shouldn't have to mess with them. And if you're flying at night, there's some other lights here you can mess with, just to get it exactly how you want it. And we'll go ahead and turn on the fuel valves for both engines. And we will go ahead and turn on the pilot heats, or the pitot heats, both them, the pilot and the co-pilot. And go ahead and turn on your anti-collision lights and your position lights. And if you feel like doing any of these, you can. For the no smoking, cabin lights, seatbelt sign, I don't usually, but that's where they are if you want to use them. So we're going to go ahead and turn on fuel prime for engine 1. There is 2 engines in this helicopter, as like most helicopters, there for redundancy as well. So you can go ahead and clear this out by hitting enter twice on both of these. That way it'll go ahead and give them time to do their search and acquire GPS signal, so you can start doing your flight planning in it. And while that acquires, I am going to mention one more thing, and that is right down here. This is your landing light. That's the search light. Do not know if it's actually implemented yet, because there's supposedly you can move it. I had read that they was going to add that in future update. I have not actually checked to see if that works, so we might just check that out. And you can click on these right down here, but they do not do anything yet. It'd be nice. The auto trim would be very nice. Alright, looks like we got GPS signal there. So another thing I'm going to mention here is The assist start, if you're in very cold weather, like I think it's around the freezing mark, and you will have to possibly use the assist start, is what I've read in the manual. I do not know exactly why, but if it does not want to start normally like we're going to do in a moment, then try doing your assist start. Alright, so we're going to leave it right here for a second. We're not going to start it quite yet. We're just going to do this brief overview of the Garmin 530. Alright, so with the Garmin 530, once you have got the signal acquired, like we've already done, you can then start inputting your flight plan. There's a couple different ways to do it. Of course, you can just click on flight plan, and if you left click and then right click, that'll activate you to get in here, and you can simply just go ahead and put in whichever waypoints it is you want. But we're just going to do a direct to. Like I said, I'm not going to go insanely in depth with the Garmin 530, because if you're just flying VFR, this would be all you would need, which is what I'm about to show you. So we're at Melbourne right now, Melbourne, Florida, that is, not Melbourne, Australia. We're in Melbourne, Florida, so let's go direct to Patrick Space Force Base. I think it is COE. Let me make sure. Or no, it's COF. Alright, COF. So we're going to use this little direct to button. You just click it. It should automatically have K there. If it does not, then switch to K. And then again, if you're in another country, you may have to change it to E or L or P. But just for the United States, for the most part, is K. So it should already have you there, so you can go ahead and use this back big button and scroll over. And use this small one to navigate through the letters. And we are going to go to C. And then I'm going to scroll again with the back one. And we're going to go to O. And scrolling again. And E. No, F. There we go. And make sure it lines up. Southeast United States, Patrick Space Force Base in Cocoa Beach, Florida. So once you make sure you got that right, just simply hit enter. And it'll ask you if you want to activate it. And yes, we do. And you can see it's already put our little marker there. And you can do the same thing in the 430. It works exactly the same. Like I said, these are pretty much the exact same Garmin's, except this one just has a bigger screen. It's literally just about the only difference. Make sure this says GPS here in the bottom as well. If it says VLOC, it will not fly your flight path. If you're using autopilot, this helicopter does not have autopilot, so we will not be using it. I'm just going to be simply using the flight plan or flight path for a reference. And I'm not probably even going to actually fly it. I'm just going to go along the coast and then just use this to know when I'm getting close, even though I already know what the airport looks like. So if it does not say GPS, just click that CDI button and get it to where it says GPS. Alright, so there we go. We've got that in there. And since we're flying VFR, we'll come around here, and it should already be a default on 1200. And we're just going to go ahead and turn it on, and we'll go ahead and do altitude reporting as well. Alright, so I've already got these on, and we're going to get these engines started. So you will just go to the center console here, and you do not have to click this button. You just simply open the flap and click start for engine 1, and you'll notice the RPM going up. And let's switch to outside, and you will notice the blades are turning. And while we wait for this to start winding up, I will mention this livery, which if you already own this aircraft and have used it a little bit, you'll notice that it does not actually have this livery. This is a livery I made because I recently seen a NASA helicopter fly over in Florida. It was actually an A135, but I was like, oh, that's really cool. So I just made a livery for this one. If you do want it, I'll include the link to that on for FlightSim.2. You can download it and install it if you wish. Alright, that's winding up. So while that's going pretty good, you'll notice that it stopped right here. This was the first issue I ran into the other day. It's not a bug, it's not anything like that, it's just simply knowing what to do. So it's basically in an idle right now. And if you look on your throttle here, you'll see these two handles. So this is engine 1, that's engine 2. So you want to just simply grab it, left click, and scroll up, or move your controller up, and you'll notice now the RPMs are increasing. You can start both engines and you will not be able to take off. You might get about 2 or 3 foot in air, that's about it, unless you push these up for increasing the rotor speed, I believe it is, and it gives it more torque and so on. So we're going to start engine number 2 now, and you'll see it's starting to wind up. I'm going to go ahead and move that up. I will say this is probably my favorite helicopter in the game right now. I don't own all the helicopters that are actually available to purchase. I just picked this one up because it seemed pretty cool. So for what helicopters I do own, and some of the free ones out there, this is probably my favorite helicopter. It feels like it flies pretty good. I have no idea how close it is because I've never flown one. And supposedly they did use real pilots for the testing to help match it as perfect as possible. So supposedly it's pretty accurate. Well, it looks like we're pretty much started. If you hear that beeping, just go right here and click your master caution just to clear that little warning out. And now that we are started, let's go ahead and turn off our fuel prime. Actually, I didn't even do it for engine 2 and it still works, so maybe that's just there for looks. But yep, everything looks good. We're on the green. So I believe we're ready. Got all my lights on. So here we go. So you'll notice as soon as you start trying to lift off of the ground with this, you're going to not only want to go forward, but you're also going to want to spin to the left. So as I take off and start applying power, I generally pull back a little on my stick and give it a little left rudder. And there we go, we're airborne. Increase the throttle a little more here and raise the landing here. And with this, you'll typically only use about 60% throttle, maybe even 50%. It does not take a lot to actually get this flying and keep it at a good speed. You will never want to use full throttle. That will damage the engines. I do not know if they actually have that model in here yet, but in real life you would blow the engines. It would make the manifold pressure just through the roof. Alright, so I'm going to let my stick stay centered right here. You'll see how it's going to drift to the left. I have got no input. So I'm going to get back control of it here real quick. And I'm going to start using them buttons I was talking about earlier for the lateral trim. So I'm going to push lateral trim over to the left a little bit here. I'm also going to go ahead and start my nose trim, push it down a hair. And you have to do this over for a few seconds until it gets stable to where you want it. Just keep tapping those buttons. Just once at a time. I typically do not have it down. I just tap, and it don't take much to get this trimmed perfectly. And now I'm completely free of my joystick, and it's flying pretty well, pretty straight. We are going down a little bit. So I can tap that nose up just once. I'm going to go to the right again, so I'm going to tap the left on the lateral trim, and we're pretty smooth now. And if you alter your throttle, increase or decrease it, you will have to readjust both of those. so, 170 maybe. But I have got it quite a bit faster than that. I've got it up to like 145, 150 knots indicated, and it still flew good. In real life, I'm sure that's a bad idea, but if you do catch yourself going about 150 knots indicated, you should be just fine. The only thing I would like to really see changed in this helicopter right now is I would like the audio for it to be a tad louder. I'd like a little more bass in it, but I don't know, this might be exactly how this helicopter sounds in real life, and if that's the case, then don't change it. That's perfect then. I can merely just go off speculation as to what I think it would sound like. It sounds good anyway. It sounds good, flies good. It's not necessarily study level, by no means, but it is very, very fun to fly. Typically, once I start getting close to where I know I'm going, generally decrease my throttle down to about 20% and keep my helicopter trimmed out pretty well, and that slows me down to a pretty good speed for the approach of the airport, just so I don't have to fly around it to get slowed down or anything like that. We're only going 109 knots indicated right now anyway, so stop, and you can take off again from wherever you're at and have some more fun with it, or fly somewhere else. That's pretty much going to cover this little quick guide here for this helicopter and for the Garmin 530. Again, I will have this livery link placed into the description for the video, and hope you found it helpful, like I was saying. And if you have any more requests or a certain aircraft you'd like to see done more in depth with on a tutorial, guide, or whatever you wish to call it, that'd be fine. Or if you have something completely else random, just let me know and we will make it happen. Thank you for watching, and subscribe if you do wish to find more cool videos.